The views and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to the hosts and their guests and do not reflect the views of any outside institutions unless explicitly stated.
What's up, everyone? My name is Steve Vanderwall, and I'm the host of Cannabis Cum Laude, a podcast devoted entirely to cannabis. This podcast will cover a full spectrum of topics, including cultivation, business, medicine, politics, culture, advocacy, and everything in between. Because let's face it, the cannabis industry is very complicated. It's robust, and it has a ton of moving parts. So it's going to be my job to help you understand it a little bit better. So tune in every week for a brand new episode. And if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. And if you really like the show and are interested in sponsoring, please shoot me an email at logistics@cannabiscumlaude.com. Now enjoy the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Cannabis Cum Laude. I'm your host, Steve Vanderwall, and I am here today with my good friends, the founders of New York State Cannabis Connect, founder and CEO Tiffany Walters, and co-founder and COO Jumaane Hughes. What's going on? Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us, Steve. How exciting.
I think you two are the busiest entrepreneurs in the cannabis world right now, so thank you very much for carving out a window of your time for me. I got to know.
We appreciate it.
What have you been working on? What's going on with New York State Cannabis Connect?
Wow. So much,
question.
Steve. It is a loaded question. You took the words out of my mouth. Steve, thank you again for having us. It's almost been a year since I was last here, so I'm happy to be on the show. And so much has transpired for New York State Cannabis Connect in the last year. Right now, we're focusing on workforce development and implementation for the cannabis market in New York. We're actually getting people jobs and teaching them pathways in. And so that's been awesome. We've also been supporting some of these stores as they've been opening up. And it's just been great.
Yeah,
right?
The Catch a Contact Career Summits, they've been picking up, Steve, you know.
Oh, they sure have.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. You know, you can't ask for more.
How could I forget that? The Catch a Contact, you know.
Right, going across the state, seeing the different members of the community, you know, everywhere from Harlem to Buffalo, Queens, Albany. We've just been making contacts with people, and it's just been wonderful, what we've been experiencing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the last Catch a Contact that I went to was out in Buffalo, and we were chatting, and you're just like, look at the line. You know, you're doing it, and you guys have been doing it really well, and it seems like you're only getting bigger and stronger, and everything seems to be evolving. You know, which comes in the entrepreneurial career. Like you said, now you guys are working on, you know, kind of workforce development and implementation and staffing, and had the opportunity to work with some licensed dispensaries in New York State. What was that like?
It was eye-opening. It was a chance for us to get a look at the process and kind of really understand that the support that they're going to need as these stores open. We all know cannabis is complex. It's not like every other industry. The regulations themselves are complex, and just making sure that these store owners have the support. And I think that that's what I saw most, is that they needed the support. And I was happy that, you know, New York State Cannabis Connect was there to help, because that's what we've been kind of preparing for over the last year, is just being able to be there for them and offer them that support. And it was great to see, like Jumaane said, the community. So some of the people that they hired at the dispensary were people that actually attended the Catch a Contact Career Summit, right? So they came, they found value in that summit. Yeah. And then they actually found an opportunity because they stayed connected with the New York State Cannabis Connect network. And I'll say that, you know, over the last year, we've been able to form a really strong network. And it's beautiful to see these people actually engaging, people that are passionate about cannabis, getting into it. So it was good. Not
only passionate about cannabis, but also passionate about working in cannabis, right? Would you agree?
And for these individuals, you know, these card applicants, you know, and these are people who are most affected. So we want to make sure that they have the support. You know, again, cannabis isn't like any other industry, Steve, you know that. And so just maneuvering the waters could be tough.
It's exciting to see people excited to work. You know, I think like
after COVID happened and we were all home, and a lot of people didn't want to go back to work, or they wanted to work from home, or some people didn't want to work at all. They were kind of enjoying their time home and not grinding away 8 hours. But you're seeing people show up to these events, the same people showing up in different cities, like eager and hungry to work. I have people, like I'm sure you guys have, so many people that reach out and say, who's hiring? Here's my resume. I'm looking for a job. Anything from retail, or people with cooking experience, or no experience at all. The people are coming out in droves to work in this industry, and it's exciting because although it has taken a little bit of time to get off and round, what's the number we're expected to see for new jobs in this state?
65,000.
That's a lot of jobs.
That's a lot of jobs, Steve. Right. And then to really have people understand the scope of what that means. All of them aren't going to be plant touching. The majority of them are going to be non-plant touching, right? And so to understand that ancillary aspect to it and what that entails, and all the opportunities from HAVAC to engineering to chemistry to fertigation. I mean, there's so many different security, videography. Literally, the list goes on. Accounting, bookkeeping. We could literally go on and on. And now is the opportunity for somebody to create a space for themselves. And I think you just hit that on the nose. Like, nobody is seeming like they want to work. They have the energy, but in cannabis, there is this newfound energy and this passion. One, because people, they're already passionate about it, and I feel like they can come, from out, behind the curtain now and kind of be like, I support this. I'm passionate about it. I love it. And now I also have this skill set that goes great with it. So just, again, sparking and igniting that interest. And, that's been one of the beautiful things about partnering with the Department of Labor. It's kind of allowed us to kind of expand on that and get people who might not have normally to start thinking about this industry. And I think
individuals are definitely looking for a change. With COVID, of course, it gave individuals the time to sit at home and really reconsider the direction of their careers. That's right. And with New York State, it's like perfect timing. It was perfect timing with the legalization of the adult recreational use of cannabis. It's like, hey, like these individuals are now like, hey, I have a way in.
Shout out 2 years too.
Right. Shout out
on the MRTA.
Shout out to everyone. Yeah, but they look at it like, hey, I have a way in now, like, and I feel comfortable with going gung ho into the industry now, Well,
there's something to be said about doing something every day. We spend 1/3 of our life at work. Most people, right? 1/3 sleeping, 1/3 working, and 1/3 to yourself. And there's something to be said. And I'm sure we've all kind of experienced this, is like the value of freedom and doing something that you love to do every day. Like, I don't ever really feel like I'm working, and it's made me a little bit unrelatable to a lot of my friend circle because, I see, my friends and my family get grinding all day, and there's nothing wrong with it. But when you're, excited about what you do, and you don't have the Sunday blues, and you love what you do, somebody in my commencement speech in college, it'll stick with me forever. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I feel that we're having a whole movement of people who I think are going to find true value and like true purpose and excitement. And you get a workforce that's excited, you're unstoppable.
And I think what Tiffany and I have been doing with the Catch a Contact Career Summit it speaks to all of that. Like, when we first started this endeavor, we were frightened. I have to admit that. Like, I'm like, hey, am I really willing to take this across the state? But like you said, it got to the point where we don't even feel like we're working. We've gotten to see beautiful parts of the state of New York that we never would have seen.
And we lived there our whole life. Like, and meet people across the state that are relatable, right? We're from Rochester, right? And so it's different than a city, And so to be able to go to the down to the city, or even to Jamestown, is different than like to be able to see and then see the common connection as well and the common thread. And it's beautiful to see so many New Yorkers again move towards this, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're just a community member looking to learn more because now it's not illegal anymore, and they want to understand what that means for them. It's great. It's a real show of community around cannabis in New York, and I love it. It's diverse. It's and it's tangible. We're making it tangible, and I think that's That's beautiful. Like Jumaane said, through the Catch a Contact Career Summit, exposing people to those pathways, that there's actually an entryway for you that you can actually get in.
Yeah, and I think I think when a lot of people who are thinking about cannabis are thinking about the basics, like, oh, I'm going to work in the garden, or I'm going to work in the kitchen, or I'm going to work in retail. But that's a small piece of the puzzle of like all the other job opportunities that are here.
There's so much more. There's so many more avenues to enter into the industry.
You could literally go through a state program and get certified for HAVAC, and then now open a whole company that your own and start a whole business for yourself.
You could be a security guard right now with a licensed security to operate in New York State, and you can go gung-ho and present your services to the legal dispensaries right now in New York State.
In my opinion, it's kind of funny because I am pursuing a plant touching license, is that I think the ancillary sector is way more attractive. You get to have all the benefits of the cannabis industry without the headache and the bullshit that a lot of plant touching people are going to have to go through.
Correct. There's a lot of regulations, rules and tape that they have to go through in order to operate. And it's not a pretty world, like that side of the industry. Like I give them their props, like for doing what they're doing, like, especially being the ones that are paving the way. But for us, like, I think it was a wise route to take the ancillary approach, like, especially with what we're doing.
Oh, no doubt. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit of regulations. Right?
Yay!
Always like talking. There's a lot going on. A lot has happened since the past year.
Yes.
I just had Corinne on last week, and we did kind of a 1-year update of where Bristol Extracts is and what they've been going on. One of the things that we've seen in the news recently. Well, first, shout out to a lot of the card applicants that just got their license. That's huge. That's needed for not only the applicants, but for the farmers and the manufacturers. It is a huge...
The whole industry, that vertical.
We need places to sell legal pot to keep people afloat.
Definitely.
But one of the things that I keep seeing, and I don't really understand how it works, is the real estate piece, where we're starting to see this kind of conflict between card applicants and DASNY, who we remember is in charge of this social equity fund, right? What exactly, paint me a picture of what exactly is going on with this issue right now.
Well, so DASNY, the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, is handling the leasing and procurement of buildings for card applicants. There was a change that was made where the card applicants could procure their own space with approval from DASNY. And so that wasn't something that was an original requirement or that was in place initially. So I think that it was kind of an unforeseen thing where you would have DASNY actually kind of competing with these card applicants for spaces, because now, since DASNY said they can have their own space with their approval, they're going out and looking for those spaces. But DASNY's also looking for spaces, and so you have that issue, and then it's kind of like this slow two thing to kind of roll out, because DASNY can only has the capacity to open a certain amount of stores in a certain amount of time. And so, you just have now people trying to procure spaces for themselves so that they can open up, and rightfully so. But then you also have DASNY. Yeah. So there's an issue there, and they're going to have to address that somehow.
Is there like priority given to certain entities, or if because the big issue is also the 1,000-foot rule, right?
Correct. We could talk. Right. Exactly. That's yet to be seen. Right. I mean, I think if I was a landlord and you have a state and you have the card applicant, who are you really going to lean? I mean, at this point, it's up to them, right? Yeah. The person who owns the space, who they want to kind of roll with. Right. So, yeah. It's a tough. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it is. It's to be determined. We don't know yet. We'll see.
Okay.
Hopefully they address it. That 1,000-foot rule is an issue. If you're so that rule, right? If you're a municipality that has over 20,000 residents, you can't have stores more than 1,000 feet apart that are the same. So, Right now we see Jamestown's mayor has put in a letter to OCM addressing this concern for his constituents. So we'll kind of see how that plays out.
So he's asking he doesn't like the 1,000-foot rule?
No, it would because Jamestown is so small.
Yeah.
They wouldn't actually be able to have, I think, more than a few stores in their downtown because, right. And so that, that's an issue for them. And I think that it's not a one size fits all. It isn't. It isn't for card applicants, and it definitely isn't for towns and municipalities across the state. There's going to have to be adjustments. And as these, regulations are created and as long as people speak up, hopefully OCM is listening and they make adjustments.
Well, that's a problem. And it's no fault of anybody's, but when you're especially creating a new regs package or anything, creating a good single system is hard enough, but then start to creating these iterations and, not allowing it to be cookie cutter is very tough. Just like the card program, it's not cookie cutter. Right. Who's got the resources? Who doesn't? Do they still qualify for money? We don't know. Right. There's all these different things that we're starting to see, which I think over-regulation tends to breed problems like this. I think if you lay off regulation, you kind of let the market do its things and then reevaluate every year, every 2 years and say, okay, here are our main problems. Let's add a regs package. Instead of trying to dot every I and cross every T right off the bat, I think you kind of could avoid a lot of these problems by having more looser regulations package up front and then, starting to revise them at the end. But now we're starting to see these issues of, inter-regulation conflicts and card versus DASNY. And these are things that I'm sure the regulators didn't see coming.
They didn't.
And there's going to be a lot of instances like this that happen over the years. New market, a lot of regulations, a lot of interest, a lot of money. I feel like over the next couple of years, we're going to still start to weed out some of these problems. Hopefully they get weeded out and kind of taken care of. But it is interesting to even see some of these conflicts happening.
Right.
I'm assuming probably more to come.
I can agree because the forward thinking, they just didn't foresee it. When you make changes like that and you try to pivot, I'm sure it has something to do with not being able to raise the amount of money that they wanted to raise for that fund, but then also increasing the amount of card applicants, by doubling it to 300, like you said. And card is not cookie cutter. You have people that are on the different spectrums. Right. You have, the housing, cannabis, the Housing Works Cannabis Co., who, is a multi-million-dollar, non-for-profit, and then you have actual community-based organizations that are small, Just Breathe in Binghamton, and these are totally different spectrums. And then you have individuals who are opening, and you have individuals who, again, they may have needed certain support, but maybe not that financial support. Right. And then you have other people that need it all. And so I think we the issue is thinking that we can make something that's going to fit everybody. I think that we need to, that's like a one size fits all. It's not going to be that way.
Yeah, I'm definitely, especially when it comes to new markets, like my brain leans into a more laissez-faire, let the markets tell us what's going to happen and then layer on regulations after that. And I think that if the state would have done that, we would have just seen a truly explosive market and winners and losers, as any new market.
Kind of survival of the fittest.
It is. And I think there's pros and cons of that too, especially when we're talking about, applicants who may not have endless resources or real estate and are leaning on the state, It does become a very delicate balance.
It is. So
I know that a lot of people, including myself, have kicked dirt at OCM and blah blah blah. But they got a hard job,
They have such a hard job.
I agree. I mean, I would hate to be in their position. I mean, what would you say?
I mean, they have a tough job, and I commend everybody over there. What they're doing is not easy. And in New York State, we have a reputation that we like to do things better and the best, We're not the financial capital of the world for nothing, right? We set ourselves apart from others, and I like that about being a New Yorker. I love that about being a New Yorker, right? And they have the toughest job, and it is going to take some time. And I guess that's what I would say, right? Is as they're creating these regulations, we're all learning, right. and it's pioneering, and so it is going to be tough, and it's not going to be straightforward, and there are going to be pivots, and they're going to be quick, and they're going to happen rapidly, and you have to be prepared for that. It's not going to be easy, even with the, as being a card applicant and having that support, it's still not going to be easy. When you open up by yourself, if you think you're going to do it, it's still not going to be easy, because we're also learning these regulations. Regular regulations haven't opened up. There's going to be different regulations for these conditional licenses than there will be for traditional licenses. How different will they be? Maybe not that different, but there will be differences. And so that's going to be another learning curve, because right now people are seeing, we saw draft regs. We're just waiting. We don't even know what delivery or on-site consumption is going to look like.
Right.
So they have a tough job ahead of them. They are getting more support, and I hope that they just continue to do what they're doing as far as listening to different, groups around the state that have different interests, from, what we call legacy all the way up to, just community-based organizations, churches, like everybody. Let's get the input. This is an opportunity for New York. As you guys both said, and we all know, COVID hit us hard, everybody here. And I think that through cannabis, this plant, this community type of plant, it unites community. And I think that we have an opportunity here for this plant to uplift this whole state. I really do.
And we've been, especially in this region, my whole platform has been built on craft cannabis, right? Small batch, family run craft cannabis quality, right? Because if you take a drive down Seneca Lake or Cayuga Lake and you see winery, brewery, probably 100 in a couple miles, and they're all thriving, and they're a major tourist distraction or destination, that type of entity is exactly what's going to happen with cannabis. We see with the tourism, before everybody started to legalize, everybody's going to Colorado, everyone's going to California. They still are. Now people are going to Michigan. People need to be coming here. Not only are you going to have all these jobs that come in, 60,000 jobs, it's huge for economic development.
Yes.
Then you start to have agritourism and outside money coming in, and it really is. I think in 5 years, if we can figure out how to get legacy in, we can roll out this program in a reasonable way. We can keep the titans out, and can maintain a very delicate balance of allocating the perfect amount of licenses. Because remember, there is a very small margin of license allocation where it can become like a monopoly or an oligopoly, and it can become oversaturated, like Oregon, where there's so many licenses and it can't keep up with demand, and you're selling $300 pounds. So if they can do that, which I do think the slow release is probably going to help contain that, because year after year you'll start to see your numbers probably start to dip. Okay, prices are spot prices are down. People are holding this much inventory. Let's back off on licensure. It's a delicate process, but I do think over the next couple of years, I think it is going to be tremendously beneficial, especially when we start to see this new regulations package, the second draft of this regulations package, which I heard May 10th, is when they're supposed to release that. And then the possibility of new licenses, coming out this fall. What are your thoughts on that? What have you heard about that? I
think that you're right, that's around the time that those regs will come out, and then we'll see probably, licensing open up at the end of this year for everyone. That would be great. I think that would be great. We'll need it. We need it. And I'm excited for that, because it means new opportunities. I want to say again, card was like this one size fits all, and it's not. There's a whole demographic of people that didn't qualify for card, whether it was because they actually didn't have a cannabis conviction and they're operating in what I like to call the dominant market, or whether they did have the money in the location and it just wasn't, an opportunity they thought was for them during that, right? So there's all these different demographic of what we'll call, the state legacy, the dominant market, that want to get involved and that would bring great value to this market. And so I think and then there's just the people that are great entrepreneurs that want to get in. And I think that when we open it up, that will be good. It will be great for New York. I'm excited for that.
I know. I hope it's coming soon. I'm honestly excited for this new regs package. I've kind of built an entire, obviously I've been talking about micro business for years and years. I think that's just going to be the golden ticket. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I do think that that's going to be, if they can allocate licenses to that and give them in a way that's not with huge barriers to entry, and they give out a lot of them, I know that deep in my bones that license is going to be what props everything up.
I agree. I agree with you. I think that I see a lot of organizations and grassroots that are going to take advantage of that license type. Yeah. And I think it is going to be beautiful. I can't wait to see that in the new regs that come out. Yeah. And hopefully, eventually, again, we see those delivery regs. We see what those look like, on-site consumption. Yeah. There's a lot of people waiting for that on-site consumption. What does that look like? What does that look like with the 1,000-foot rule? Like, you know what I mean? We have a lot of...
Yeah. A lot of waiting, unfortunately, from different facets of the industry right now. So that's one thing that's for certain, I would say, Steve. There's a lot of waiting. And it's well deserved. We're at a point right now where we're looking at the industry possibly going in the wrong direction, or like you said, can we put it in the right direction? So it's a delicate balance that has to take place.
And let's not, the waiting isn't the issue. New York needs to be prepared. These people need to be prepared. Honestly, time is, if you use it wisely, it's great on your side, right? And I think it's just about being prepared. We know it's going to take time. We just want the state to be transparent with people, and so that they can prepare accordingly. Again, we talk to people all across the state who are on different, spectrums of this cannabis journey, and they could be spending money right now, just kind of waiting on the state. So I think just that level of transparency, I think they're trying to do better. They're opening it up. Again, they've awarded more licenses. Hopefully the fact that card applicants can now have their own space, some of them which do, once they get their licenses, they can open up, without, that hesitation, and that they're prepared.
Yeah, definitely a sense of frustration from the card applicants, but let's not forget the cultivators who are sitting on a lot of product right now, and they have nowhere to basically sell that product. So, again, it's a lot of frustration on different levels of the industry right now. So, and
not to mention, we're all in the Finger Lakes.
I know,
you throw in litigation, yeah. So,
we're still waiting.
I know. I was pumped that they lifted it for everybody else, and I was like, damn, of course it would be us.
I know.
Of course, come on.
Right. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. We're just sitting here with our fingers crossed, but like Tiffany said, the upside of it is, if you're in a position where you can use time as an asset, this is the time to do so. So try to just sit back and really regroup yourself, and prepare for the next step.
Yeah, I'm looking at this very optimistically, in that time right now is, for legacy especially, this is the most valuable time that you're going to have in this business, because there's a lot of businesses out there running it up and doing their thing and hustling and reinvesting and bringing on people and teams, and you should do that as long as you can, until it's time to make the switch where everything becomes a lot harder, because, businesses, I don't, you're going to have a lot of, it's not going to be as easy if you and your wife or you and your friend have been growing weed and hustling and delivering out of your house for, the last 10 years. Once you get into the business, you're going to need SOPs. You're going to need compliance.
Definitely.
You're going to need a team. You're going to need all this.
Mm-hmm.
So use this time to ramp up and study and get your ducks in a row, because the time's coming for all of us. I'm a firm believer in good things come to those who wait.
Yes.
Luckily, it seems that our elected officials, shout out to Senator Cooney, shout out to Sammerbrook, our city council, everyone's rowing in the right direction. It sucks that we're kind of stuck in the middle of this injunction, but the time will come for us. And, let's not forget that the injunction only applies to card. If they do, release the rest of the licenses, from a retail perspective, you'll have micro and general dispensaries. So it might be a little bit longer of a tow for us, but I do think that for Rochester and the Rochester legacy market, good things are coming. I
do. I agree with you. And shout out, like you said, to, Senator Cooney, Senator Baroque, the city of Rochester, New York Law, them and Air Wellness, they're doing an expungement clinic in the city of Rochester on 420. And it will be at Urban Euphoria. It will be from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you can actually get a cannabis record expunged. So if you come prepared, or you just want to find out more, I encourage you to come. And they're also, even if it's not a cannabis conviction, but you have another conviction, they're going to attempt to get you a relief of disability or a certificate of relief. And I think that that's important. Definitely. I think that everybody should take advantage of it. It's a free service. And, when we're talking about legacy, we're talking about, some of these people have charges. So come down and get that handled. I think that that's a great resource, and that's again making great use of your time while you wait.
Because it's probably a tough process, right? To how would somebody go about doing that?
So, well, one, they're automatically expunging them, but just in case yours hasn't been automatically expunged, what you would need to do is bring your arrest record. You'd need to know the city and state where the charge happened. You'd have to have your docket number and your government issued ID, right? And if you come in, then those lawyers will fill out a form for you and then submit that and get that expunged. But it has to be solely a cannabis conviction. We have to stress that because we know cannabis is listed as an illicit drug, right? No, we don't talk about that a lot in New York anymore, but that's a reality. That is still listed. It's still considered a narcotic equivalent to fentanyl or cocaine, right? And we also know that a lot of people that deal in the dominant underground market also, some of them deal in other things. And so they're all, to stress that it has to just be cannabis. But again, if you have some of those other types of arrests, there are opportunities for, if it happened a while ago, for you to get that relief of disability. And those things can help you get employment. Those things can help you as you move forward in the cannabis industry. Because I'm not going to say that nobody's doing background checks in cannabis. Let's not be, that naive to think that, right? But if things happened a long time ago and you want to get into cannabis, don't let that stop you. Right. Take care of it, do what you have. And at least if you get that certificate of disability or certificate of relief, it shows that there's been a change, that the county has, kind of turned a leaf, or the state, so I think that that's just beneficial to you if you want to get into this new industry.
It is crazy to think that, we were sitting up here talking about new business and all this stuff, and there's still people who are in trouble.
Let's talk about it. Right. Let's talk about. There are people in other states that that are literally sitting in jail that have life sentences off of cannabis. They'll never get out because of cannabis. At one point, we didn't think that cannabis would be legal. Let's not forget how restrictive our medical program was in New York State until the MRTA was passed, right? They just eased up on you could only have certain ailments. The flower wasn't even available. So we have to be conscious of that because there's still a war on drugs that's happening on a national level, and so thank you for making sure that we're reminded of that. Yeah, it's we can't take that lightly. And New York is not just the financial capital of the world, but it's the arrest capital of the world.
Big money in arresting people.
Let's talk about that, right? In 2020, Bloomberg did a report on New York City, and it said that they spent almost $500,000 to house, feed, and guard one inmate in New York City. Right? That was in 2020, during the height of COVID, that we spent that much. Let's talk about it. So as we invest in this new industry, let's not forget, it's a drop in the bucket to how much we invested to arresting people. And how much that is. I just read through the Legal Weed guy. I like him. He's on it. He just did this whole thing where he investigated who bought acreage. The Vanguard. Well, Vanguard owns 23% of the private prison industry, right? And then also we all have 401ks through like Vanguard, or like not all of us, but a lot of us, they deal in that.
Vanguard and like BlackRock are probably some of the most powerful entities in the whole world.
And Fidelity.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, huge, like a huge portion of our country's wealth sits within those companies. I mean, they are the real titans.
Right. And so now they're in cannabis. Who would have thunk?
Didn't see it coming.
But wow, that contrast, right? To see that they're still investing in the private prison industry as people in other states, as we just talked about, right? They're sitting in jail. People are sitting in jail for cannabis crimes, and they're investing in it. And they're also investing in that private prison industrial complex that we, I know.
Makes you sick.
Terrible.
Capitalism.
Yeah. It's capitalism, I think, is one of the greatest gifts that we could have gotten as a country, just in terms of innovation and all that. But man, it can be weaponized and it can be abused, and cannabis as an industry and as as kind of a criminal thing has been really an example of that, of how you could take something so benign and so accessible and so sought after and use it to put really a specific population of people behind bars for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope people don't forget that when we're all, talking about business and licenses and branding and all this stuff that
we have to remind them
behind all
and
of that.
Constantly remind them and let them not forget it,
And this is a great time to just kind of recognize 331, March 31st. March 31st just passed. Like I said, it's been 2 years since the MRTA was passed. And that day, we need to really recognize in New York and celebrate it. We're all happy that 420 is amongst us and or upon us. And, we're happy to celebrate with our friends. But I will always celebrate 331 because I never thought that day would come in New York, And New York legalized cannabis. Like Jay-Z said, they got weed in store time. It's a
so many
thing.
waited and they didn't get to see that day, unfortunately. Like, my father unfortunately passed literally 2 months before MARTA came to be. So, he was a big cannabis proponent.
Yep.
He was waiting for that day, Steve. Fortunately, he just didn't make it. Yep. So I know there were thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of individuals across the state that unfortunately did not get to experience that day. So we need to hold that day sacred.
We do. I agree. Thank you.
Yeah. Hell yeah. What's so as we, kind of get towards the end of the show, what's next for you two? What's obviously you've just from where, we've all known each other for about a year. I feel like the podcast last year was maybe the first time we went in person. We were all doing our thing, and just what an evolution. I just feel like when you look at startups and brands and like the growth trajectory is generally like this. You guys are everywhere. You're across the state. You got a whole team. You got implementation teams. Like you're growing at a crazy rate. What's next?
Wow. Is Brooklyn in the house?
Brooklyn is next.
Brooklyn is next. And we're going to Brooklyn on April 22nd with Catch a Contact Career Summit. That's been amazing. And so we're really excited for that. And then from there, we'll be launching training soon. So we're excited for that. And then we have some fun stuff launching on our platform. We've been talking a lot about the resources and those tools. So
you're going to see some of those tools start to appear over the next month or so.
That's right.
Yeah, the GRAM, the General Resource and Access Map, will be live soon, and I can't wait for that. Along with you like that, right? If you're subscribing to the Catch a Contact in our website, then you're already getting the Match Me newsletters. So hopefully you guys are finding value in those, and you're landing careers. If you are someone, please write us. We'd love to know if you've landed a career off that newsletter, and I honestly didn't know, but that would be amazing. And then again, we got even more fun stuff coming from you guys. So just keep on the lookout for New York State Cannabis Connect. We're excited. See, we have some projects with you coming. So I just want to say we can't stop, won't stop. We're ambitious. Right. We're excited for this opportunity for the communities across New York State, and we really want them to understand what this means for them. I'll shout out, Majority Leader Crystal People-Stokes, and so many people, Assemblywoman Donna Lopardo, and just so many people fought to get that 40%.
And still fighting.
And still fighting. But that 40% for our community, once we get successful businesses. So this is just all it's intertwined. It's an ecosystem, and we all need it to run properly so that we can, reap the benefits.
And
definitely.
Back in my, when I was doing a lot more advocacy with Rock Normal, Crystal People-Stokes, she's like, I'm not budging on 40%. We'll shut the bill down and we'll move to next year. She's like, I'm not giving in. And she's stuck with that. A lot of these pioneer politicians have been, her and Liz Kruger and
name off Liz, right?
And
name the list. Thank you, Steve. Right.
We need, shout out to them because they've been in the trenches with this a long time. This is something
years
that's been transpiring for years before MRTA was even live. So. Right. It's a lot of work that's been happening from all parties.
And
shout it out.
A lot of work to be done.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. It's
it
just
doesn't.
Work now.
But
doesn't.
Well, it's figuring it out. Like we have it now. What do we do with it? And I think that's why it's important. And I love coming through the communities and kind of sparking that interest because it is about that. I mean, we talk to all types of people in the community, from legacy to pastors at churches to parents and just other enthusiasts and just community members that do consume. Like the walks are just all of the pathways, and it's beautiful to talk to New Yorkers and that they're excited about this and what this means for them community, because we're going to get a lot of programs. Hopefully this can make our schools better here.
That's right.
Hopefully we can have more programs for our seniors and our youth, and we can have more programs for entrepreneurs and churches, and just in general, we can have things to help with STEM programs and vocationals. And I mean, the list goes on. If you're a New Yorker and you've thought of an idea that can help your community, now's the time to go to your town or municipality and try to get it approved and acted upon, because they will eventually have the funds to, move forward if it's a good idea.
Right. Definitely. Stay strong and just keep pushing. That's what I would say. You know?
And there's times, and I'm sure we've all feel it, it's like, is this all worth it? I've been waiting for 4 years. This is tough. We're all kind of, I go through this roller coaster of this is what I'm meant for. And then I think like, do I got this in me? And at the end of the day, when you look about the opportunity, like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. How do you, it's going to be hard now for everybody. It's hard now if you're a business owner. It's hard enough if you're a brand, but like, good things come to those who wait, and those who, there's going to be, people that at the end of all this, we're going to look back and say, damn, it was worth it. Remember the first Catch a Contact, remember the first podcast, remember the first anything, the first sale. Years later, it'll be like, man, it was worth it. So I'm excited. You guys know I'm a big fan. I have been since day one, putting in the work. True, awesome entrepreneurs, great friends. I'm just so excited to have you on the show, and I think the state's really lucky to have you guys. So keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it, Stephen. You're amazing too. We appreciate what you're doing. We appreciate this podcast and the information and education that you push. And like you said, this is the time is now. Like, you got to get in. Definitely. When is the last time our state had a new industry? Manufacturing, car manufacturing. Like, I know a lot of people that, GM, like we think about those brands that were here, Delco, like in and around like this industrial, film, Kodak, Xerox, printing. Like, when's the last time we had a new industry? Like you said, it comes once. Like, like these aren't things that happen again. And so if you position yourself and you do the work and you grind, I'm telling you it's worth it.
Right.
And what else?
And I can't wait to celebrate, right?
Where else would we work if it wasn't in cannabis? It'd be so boring. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful thing.
I did social media. I thought people like social media. No.
The grind is important. And those organizations across the entire state, I have to give a shout out to the entire state. Like those spreading information, education, pushing cannabis in a more positive way. That's right. Because, Steve, there are a lot of organizations across the state right now, like, and they're out here doing some work, you know? So
thank you for saying that, Jumaane. He's right. It's beautiful. We cannot shout all of y'all out, but
with
that's
a lot
true.
Of organizations across the state, like, you know, literally. Again,
it's part of the best, one of the best parts.
Yes. And a matter of fact, Deshita Dawson, the czar of New York City cannabis, shout out. We're going to see her in Brooklyn, her stomping grounds.
And Lauren from Two Chicks and Flowers.
Will be kicking off there, like, you know, so it's going to be a wonderful day, like, you know, so.
But Jumaane's right, because it takes all of these organizations. It can't help the state, and you guys know what your communities need, and that's part of it. It's just making sure that they have the resources. And so shout out, and to all the car applicants that are out there, and the cultivators and the processors and everybody that has just been patiently waiting and just grinding it out. It's a beautiful thing to see New York come together like this and see the diversity of this industry. I love it. I love seeing it. And you're right. It just and it does make me excited and passionate about going to work every day. Yeah. Like, so I love it.
Yeah, definitely. It's not easy, but again, there's pure excitement behind it, Steve. Yeah. Like I said, like when we have to get up at 5 a.m,
take a plane down to New York.
Down to New York City, like, you know, for literally only 4 hours and then come back, like, you know.
Because we do that for y'all. We love y'all. We fly all across this state
all
for
in
y'all.
A day's work.
In a day's work, or drive.
New York City,
Albany,
or somewhere,
right.
Like, and then drive back.
Or
like,
Jamestown, or Ithaca, or, you know, I mean, we hit everybody up. Terrytown.
It doesn't matter where you are. You're coming.
We're coming.
That's right.
Yeah, we're everywhere.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, guys, thanks so much. I think it's only appropriate that we get another episode on the calendar for next year, right around 4/20.
Let's do it.
Please do.
Another check-in.
Please
Hell
do.
yeah.
All right, Steve.
Guys, this has been another very fun, very awesome episode of Cannabis Cum Laude here with my friends, the founders of the New York State Cannabis Connect. Check them out. Their information for their website and their social media handles are in the show notes. One thing I do want to ask you before we get we hang up is, I have a lot of people ask me all the time, who's hiring? Where can I submit a resume? Do you guys have some place that people can submit resumes, or anybody who's looking for a job? What's the best line to reach you?
So I think that you can submit a resume to us directly at contact us, NYSCannabisConnect.com. So contact us at NYSCannabisConnect.com. And then you can also, if you sign up on our summit.nyscannabisconnect site, you can get those newsletters directly to you on who's hiring. And eventually, in a few weeks, we'll have our job board up. So by that second week of May, when you go to our website, you'll see a job board and you'll be able to submit your resume directly to the employer, and we are excited for that.
One of those important tools I was just telling you about.
Yeah.
You guys got a whole tool belt full of them.
We got a whole tool belt. We coming. They not ready.
Right.
A SWAT team.
Right.
I know. That's right. Right. Go ahead and say what it stands for, Jumaane.
CIRT, Career Implementation Resources and Training Team. Just remember that.
Yeah, we coming for you.
I know it sounds like a mouthful, but it won't be tomorrow.
I love it.
I'm just, I'm picturing this like blacked out van showing up, door kicking open, you two coming out with your suitcases and your paperwork, and like, let's do this.
The mobile printer.
Yeah, whether you're a dispensary owner, a security company, we're gonna help you. Like,
they're pulling up.
It doesn't matter.
That's right.
We're here for it. I love it. Thank you, Steve.
Well, guys, thanks again. And hey,
thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks to our friends here at Rockbox Recording and Production in Rochester, New York. They are a full professional podcast and video studio designed by a radio guy for podcasters. Audio, video, voiceovers, editing, whatever. Mouth off at rockbox.com.
You can follow Cannabis Cum Laude on LinkedIn and all other social media platforms, as well as Cannabis. And if you'd like to help support the show, search up Cannabis Cum Laude on Patreon. And of course, all of those links are in the show notes. Thanks for watching and listening.